Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. It had been a long week, and I was eager to relax at home with a cold beer and maybe some pizza. Setting my suitcase by the door, I headed to the kitchen for my first drink. The house felt eerily quiet as I opened the beer bottle. That's when I noticed the dog was gone, which was rather strange. Normally, she greeted me at the door with a low growl and a fierce display of teeth. I had even started carrying treats in my pockets to bribe her into letting me in. How did I end up with a dog that seemed to hate me? Pondering this, I began searching the room for her. Suddenly it hit me. It had been about 5 weeks since my wife brought the dog into the house. Jack's dog. Well, technically Ryan's dog, but for now, we were keeping her. "She's really sweet once you get to know her," my loving wife had said when the dog sniffed my leg. I wondered why. If I had wanted a dog, I would have picked a Labrador, I muttered, pushing Jack away from my leg. "Jack, come," my wife Sarah commanded when the dog clung a bit too tightly to my leg. At her command, Jack loosened her grip, but kept her muzzle uncomfortably close to my bleeding leg. "Ryan trained her well. She listens to me perfectly. I think having her around will make me feel safe, especially at night." "Really? Why can't Ryan just keep her at his place?" I asked, rolling up my pants to check the puncture wounds on my leg. "I don't need this dog. Hell, she bit me." "If you're kind to her, she won't bother you," someone replied. According to Ryan, this breed has gotten a bad reputation due to a few irresponsible owners who improperly train their dogs. Ryan can't take her back because he has an adult dog at home. At one point, his dog almost attacked Jack, but Ryan managed to stop it in time. He believes it's better to keep them apart until Jack matures. It's up to him when Jack will be ready to meet another dog. "I really don't understand why we need to keep such a fierce dog just because your boss is foolish enough to own one," I grumbled, feeling my frustration grow. "Tell Ryan I'm absolutely against this." In response, Sarah smiled slyly. "Well, you kicked him, and Jack's been eyeing you like a hawk ever since you didn't realize what happened. The dog stays. Besides, I promised Ryan she could live with us." Around the house, I had to move cautiously, avoiding sudden movements and staying away from my wife. The dog constantly watched her, its eyes fixed on me like a hawk waiting for prey. I always felt like Jack was just waiting for the slightest misstep to justify a bite. I felt like a ghost haunting my own home, trapped within its walls. I took a long, slow sip of my beer, scanning the stairs for any sign of the dog. The silence hung in the air, and the absence of my wife was deafening. As I stepped into the master bathroom, the unsettling truth unfolded before me. The floor was a grim canvas of dried blood. Crimson streaks trailed along the walls, a terrifying testament to the chaos. My heart raced when I noticed a small bag lying on my side of the bed, its contents, someone's male toiletries and clothes, spilling out like a sinister secret. The carpet bore incriminating tracks, and the bed was a haunting sight, stained with the remnants of whatever had transpired here. The beer was nearly finished, and I went downstairs to pour myself another, my mind swirling with confusion and dread. Just as I twisted the cap off the next bottle, the silence was broken by a knock at the door. Opening it, I found a man in a cheap suit, and his presence was more unnerving than the blood-stained room behind me. "May I come in and ask you a few questions? My name is Detective Belton. I won't take much of your time." He spoke calmly, but his words sent a chill down my spine. "Are you from Interpol?" I asked sharply, my voice tinged with alarm. "No," he replied, waving off my question. "And to be honest, I'm not interested in stolen DVDs. I'm focused on the violent assault that took place here this morning." "Well, since you put it that way, come in," I said, intrigued. "My priority is the brutal attack that occurred in your bathroom earlier today. I assumed you wouldn't be back until tomorrow." "That was the plan," I confessed. "But I finished my business early and caught an early flight this morning. How did you know about my plans, and what exactly happened here earlier?" I turned to the detective and asked my question. The only lesson I learned from that was not to ask 2 questions at once. The detective chuckled. reminiscing about the past. In the end, I'm the one asking the questions. So, how long have you owned a vicious dog? I've never had a vicious dog, I replied. Do you really think the dog you had wasn't vicious? The detective asked, raising an eyebrow. What kind of person are you? I noted that this was two questions. Such dogs are known for their aggression, and I'm completely impartial here. But if you're claiming it wasn't vicious, how can you be sure your dog isn't dangerous? The frustrated police officer chimed in. Again, two questions. It seems like you have a habit of doing that, I said calmly. I don't have a dog, so that should answer both your questions. So what caused this guy's injuries today? A mouse, perhaps? Belton cried out, his face turning red as beads of sweat formed on his forehead. Two questions again? You just can't help yourself, can you? I chuckled. Since I wasn't there and have no idea what you're talking about, I can't answer either of them. But I'm fairly sure the mice around here are all small and harmless. Damn it! The detective shouted. Why am I always stuck with these idiots? Why can't I get a simple case with normal people? I responded with a laugh. Those two questions were rhetorical, right? Listen here, smart guy, the officer snapped. I need straight answers to my questions. No more games or I'll drag you down to the station for this. He pulled a pill container from his pocket and shook out a couple of small capsules. Why don't you just ask me a direct question without all the opinions? You want to know about the poor dog living at this address? I shot back at the agitated detective. So you admit you have a dog? Belton asked, feeling a noticeable sense of relief. No, I don't. You're not very good at asking clarifying questions, are you? I retorted. The detective flared up, spitting with irritation all over the kitchen. I'll answer the question you seem unable to ask. It was my wife who took care of the wretched dog which belonged to her boss, Ryan Lee, I said calmly, wiping the foam from the detective's brow. The dog didn't belong to me, and I despised it just as much as it despised me. Gradually, Belton's face showed understanding. So this miserable, vicious dog lived in your house? Yes, she insisted on keeping it, so I didn't have much of a say, I explained, noticing my counterpart's growing excitement. Did you know your wife was having an affair with Lee? The detective asked, his tone almost flippant. I had guessed when Sarah came home with the dog named Jack. That must have upset you, Belton pressed. Not really, I replied. I chose to make the best out of a bad situation. At least it seemed to work out for me. How could you possibly benefit from your wife sleeping with her boss? The bulky detective demanded. I quickly realized the dog wasn't shy about snapping at me. Furthermore, I noticed that it would sniff my modesty every time I stepped out of the shower, which only deepened my anxiety and made me question many things. I think the dog started to grow attached to me. And how did your wife react? Asked the concerned detective. She was too preoccupied with her affair. Were you aware that Mr. Lee is known for his exceptionally large endowment? No, but I had my suspicions. The last few times I was close with my wife, it felt like walking through a long tunnel, I admitted, feeling slightly awkward. Did you ever consider the possible consequences of your wife's lover staying the night? Imagine him showering in your bathroom with the dog nearby. It could lead to some unpleasant outcomes. No, I hadn't thought about that at all, I replied, genuinely surprised. Is this related to what happened today? Absolutely. The dog bit off your wife's lover's endowment. What do you make of such a bizarre situation? I suppose you already have the answer to that, I said with a grin. After being married to this woman for 25 years, I now realize how blind I've been. I deeply regret wasting the best years of my life on such an ungrateful woman, but now it's settled. She's left without my wealth, without a husband, and with a lover who can't satisfy her. Amusing, isn't it? This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.